Mind your own beeswax. Hey, counting up. Lean back.
Welcome to Mind Your Own Beeswax. My name is Grace, and this is the podcast where together we are changing our mindset and living our best lives. I'm sharing with you all of my hot tips and my hot takes that are gonna help add value to your life. And this episode is absolutely no different. So strap yourself in. It is going to be an absolute cracker. This episode today is something that I have wanted to talk to you about for a very long time. This is something I've been practicing probably for, I want to say like 8 or 9 years now. I've been doing these practices. And I actually used to have a subscription to a membership, I guess you could call it, where every month I was in this group and we would have guidance and we would do this thing. So, what is the thing? We are talking today about living by the moon and lunar cycles. Now, maybe that sounds a little bit crazy, but I promise you, if you are someone who has a goal, if you have something that you are working on, if you are changing your life, if you are changing your mindset, living by the phases of the moon is an absolute game changer. Because every single moon cycle is a chance to reset or let go of things that do not serve you. And I think it's just a great way to portion out your year, tick things off, make sure you're moving along, and just a little chance to reset. The power of the moon is not a new concept. Something that I love is throughout history, the moon has been a significant time teller, I guess. Back in the day, they didn't have calendars, they didn't know dates, they just lived by the moon. And I remember the first time this clocked me was actually when I was watching the show Viking. It's a TV series. If you haven't seen it, it's so, so good. I highly recommend. But there's this scene where I think it's like Agatha, who at the time is in charge of the village. She wants to have a battle, I think, with another person from another village. And she says to this person, I'll meet you in 2 moons' time and we'll fight. And I don't know why, but that just sticks in my brain because I'm like, how the logistics, like, if you want to meet up with me, I need a date, I need a time, I need a location, what am I wearing? Back then, they were just like, yeah, sweet, see you in 2 full moons time. It's something I cannot fathom. But that's how they lived back then, and the moon was absolutely everything. Humans back then, they didn't have months, they didn't have weeks. They had patterns. They observed how long the sun stayed in the sky. They looked at the stars and watched as the stars moved across the horizon. They looked at shadows as it changed shape throughout the day, throughout the year. And they would observe how the moon would appear and disappear every few weeks. And I always imagine if you were a farmer back then, you didn't know when winter was going to arrive. If you planted your crops too early, the frost could totally kill them. If you planted them too late, nothing is going to grow at all. So tracking time wasn't something for them. They had to rely on the moon to tell them where they were in the month and the seasons to just guide them. In researching for this episode, I went down many, many rabbit holes about the moon, and there's so much cool information. And I guess some historical info, take it with a grain of salt, but a rabbit hole that I did go down was how they believed that over the full moon, people can go crazy and there's some crazy heightened energy and emotions. And that's where the term lunatics came from. If you were a lunatic, you were someone that would be crazy over the full moon. And I just thought that was so interesting. And then I guess, not that werewolves are real, but obviously in that realm of fiction, werewolves, they morph into their wolf self over the full moon. I just find it so interesting. There's so many historical things, but there's a lot of things in fiction. A thread that I actually read on Reddit, so again, take it with a grain of salt, but I thought this was very interesting, is that there's no actual science behind the effect the moon has on the human body. The lunatics thing, it's not scientifically proven. It's very hard to measure. But the theory is that humans are made up of like 80% water, right? Our bodies are mostly water. Now, what has an effect on the water / the ocean on Earth? The moon. The moon directs the tides. And typically around a full moon is when you can seem to have like king tides or the tides change. And that's why people think the full moon can affect the human body, because there's obviously a whole heap of water in our bodies. And so is that the time that the water is being stirred up and affected by the moon? Again, this is not fact, but I thought, whoa, that is tea. That is juicy. That is interesting. I'm just sharing it. I'm not saying it's Bible, but bit of food for thought, and maybe you go, yep, I feel that, and I feel crazy around the full moon. So I fully support that idea. And I'll put my hand up. You've probably heard me say it. Anything that goes wrong around the time of the full moon, I'm like, oh, guys, it's the full moon. Your laptop's having issues? Oh, full moon. Your dog's being naughty? Ah, full moon. Sore tummy? Full moon. Bad night's sleep? Full moon. I love blaming the full moon. Maybe I am one of those lunatics, but let me live my life. Okay, Grace, why are we talking about the moon? How is it going to help me in 2026? Well, if you can learn to live by the lunar cycle, and not even live by it, simply just acknowledge the new moon and the full moon, it is going to help you up level, check in with your goals, and make the most of life and take control. The lunar cycle is a window of about 27, 28, 29 days. And you basically start off with a new moon. So, this is when the moon is hardly visible at all. You sometimes can't even see it because of where it aligns between the earth and the sun. The moon then goes from new moon into waxing. So, waxing is where it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger every night towards the full moon. So, the full moon happens kind of like 2 weeks ish later than the new moon. So the full moon is when it's at its absolute brightest. And I love when you go outside on a full moon and the night is very, very bright. After a full moon, the moon will get smaller and smaller each night. And this is what you call a waning moon. So it's getting waning as it's getting smaller and smaller. And then it goes back into the new moon. So it's kind of like a window every 2 weeks. You'll have a new moon, a full moon, a new moon, a full moon, give or take. The new moon represents beginnings and intentions. This is the perfect time for you to get clear on what you want to bring into your life. You should be writing down your intentions, setting actionable goals, visualizing your outcomes that you desire. A simple practice such as this is going to help you stay focused and motivated as the moon begins to wax and the energy builds. The full moon then is all about forgiveness and letting go. So, as the moon is then reaching its fullest, this is the time when you need to reflect and think about over the last few weeks what has worked and what perhaps you need to release. The full moon is perfect for practicing forgiveness towards yourself, letting go of any grudges, any disappointments, or anything that just feels like it's weighing you down. You need to use this time to cleanse, practice gratitude, and write down what you're ready to release. So you're kind of seeing the difference. The new moon is about bringing in newness, and the full moon is about letting go. And they kind of work in perfect harmony. I read this wonderful quote, and it says, while the new moon is the time to sow the seeds, the full moon is the time to pull the weeds. Isn't that great? You want to really put in the work, really get fired up and motivated for that new moon. And then when the full moon comes around, it's time to audit and let go of anything that doesn't serve you. And you can see then if you're living in that cycle of up leveling, shedding, up leveling, shedding, up leveling, shedding. What a way to live. Every couple of weeks, you're checking in with yourself and you're using that lunar cycle to up level, to get rid of things that no longer serve you, to keep checking in on your goals. I just love it. And even like speaking it out loud now, I'm sort of like visualizing it's like climbing a ladder, like you're going step up, step up, step up, because you're always moving forward, going after new things and dropping off things that do not serve you. So let's drill into the new moon, and I encourage you to Google when the next new moon is. Maybe it's very, very close to the time you're listening to this. So what can you do? Let's reset your intentions. So think about, what are you working towards? What do you want? Maybe you have a big goal in mind that you're slowly chipping away at. Maybe you just have a small goal. Maybe you're trying to just manifest a feeling. Maybe you're feeling stressed and you just want to shift your energy into feeling calm and to feeling peaceful. Whatever it is, get clear on your intention for the next lunar phase. You then need to do a little self audit. So assess where you're at right now. How are you feeling? What are you doing? What steps do you need to take to get where you want to be over the next few weeks? One of the great things about the lunar cycle is it's just a small window of time. Even from new moon to full moon, it's just a couple of weeks. And in the grand scheme of the year, it's not a lot. So if you have a big goal that you're working towards, you're not going to achieve it in 2 weeks. There's nothing magical that's going to happen. But doing that 2 weeks every single month throughout the year, that is when it adds up and it allows you to reset. And if you fall off the bandwagon, you can get back on track. You can check in with yourself. That is the power of living by the lunar cycle. Every single month, it's going to say, hey, bitch, you've fallen off the wagon. Let's get back on. Let's get your life back on track. A clear action plan that I want to recommend for you around the new moon is to set one intention, 3 actions, and 1 habit. I will put this in the show notes, so if you want to copy it and save it in your phone or write it in your journal, absolutely do that. So to give you an example, last new moon, I really locked in for the podcast and I wanted to do better at my socials. My intention was just to be consistent in my social media posting. The 3 actions that I took to align with this was number 1, I sort of would set myself, I'm calling it like a shift. I've got to log in, I've got to do my work, and I've got to log out. So I would clear out time in my schedule to work on my social media. I'd get on Canva, I'd create imagery. I then also decided to pre-schedule all my content. So after outputting it, I would upload it into Instagram and schedule it so that I had no excuse. Everything was already locked and loaded and ready to go. My third action was just simply sharing the link to my podcast more. I realize posting on social media is all well and good, but there's a bit of a friction point because when I'm promoting a podcast, you kind of have to navigate away from your social media platform, open up Spotify or Apple and type it in. So I'm trying to, where I can, share the link to Spotify on social. So that was my other action. Post the link to my podcast, schedule my content, lock in time to batch produce my content. And the habit that I focused on kind of aligned with my first action was just creating time, creating a habit to make time to do this and do nothing else. So what can you do? What is an intention that you're thinking of? Build it out into 3 actions and 1 habit. Next up, full moon. Again, have a Google, figure out when the next one is and set yourself a reminder. And honestly, I really love the full moon. It is my favorite moon cycle. And you will catch me outside putting my crystals out under the moonlight. I'm burning sage all throughout the house. Occasionally, I will do moon water. So I put a jar of water out and then let the moon charge it up and drink it. Yes, I know that's a little bit too far, red car. Let me live my life. That's who I am. That's a story for another day. But you best believe I am getting clear on what no longer serves me and figuring out what I need to let go of. The full moon is just so powerful and it really just calls you in and it calls you out, honestly, because it's a time you've got to figure out what is no longer serving you. What habits do you have are not working for you? What is draining your energy? What beliefs do you have that are keeping you stuck? What mistakes do you continue to repeat? What story do you keep telling yourself that you really don't need to keep telling yourself? What expectations are you setting for yourself that maybe aren't even realistic? Find something and just let it go. And another part of this is forgiveness. You've got to forgive yourself. If you've fallen off the bandwagon and since the new moon, you have done fuck all, that's okay. Don't carry that guilt. Don't feel bad. Forgive yourself and move on. If you feel guilty for not doing something, or you feel guilty for backpedaling on your goals, or you feel like you've just had a shit week, a shit month, the vibes are low, you're exhausted, Forgive yourself for feeling that way, because when you are drained and you're feeling low vibe, there is a little bit of part in your subconscious that does feel guilty because you're not doing all the things. That is okay. Let it go. Shed all those feelings. Shed everything that does not serve you. And the new moon is all about setting those intentions, getting towards your goals. You don't need to feel like that around the full moon. It's about just letting go of the things that are not sending you forward. If it doesn't serve you, let it go. A couple of actions that you can take around the full moon are getting clear on number one, what do you need to let go of? It's also really important to acknowledge, what have you learned? Did you have any lessons over the last few weeks that you have learned something? And I think this is really powerful because it's really easy to say, oh, I've had a bad day, I've had a bad week, work's been stressful, the fucking kids have been doing my head in, whatever it is. But when you reflect and you see or you look for a lesson, it kind of helps you change your perspective. And that's what I'm passionate about. That is what Mind Your Own Beeswax is all about, is changing your mindset and changing your perspective on a situation and realizing that one, it wasn't that bad, and two, there was a lesson that is going to help you evolve and become a better person. And if you've had a rough couple of weeks, maybe it has taught you patience. Maybe it has taught you a new standard. You're not going to accept that bullshit ever again. You're raising your standards. Reflect and get clear on what it is you've learnt over the last few weeks. And of course, acknowledge, what are you proud of? What is something good that happened? What do you feel good about? What is something positive that you have done? And if you've merely just survived the last few weeks, that's okay too. Be proud of that. So each full moon, acknowledge what you want to let go of, what have you learnt, and one thing you're proud of. When it comes to the new moon, you want to plant those seeds. Choose what you want to grow. Water it with consistent action and trust that process. Then the full moon comes about and you want to pull out those weeds. Remove what's stealing the nutrients, celebrate what's growing, and make room for healthy new things. The new moon is asking you, what do you want to create? But the full moon is asking, what do you need to release to make room? Growth happens when you do both. And that is the magic of the lunar cycle. It's like a stepping stone. Every new moon, you step up. Every full moon, you step up. You do something new, you let go what doesn't serve you. You do something new, you let go what doesn't serve you. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? I'm literally visualizing steps going up and up and up and up. I bloody love it. I hope this episode has been helpful to you, and maybe this is your sign to start living by the moon. I'm not saying you've got to go become a farmer like in the olden days and sow your crops and bring them in and out based on the moon. Just check in, audit your life, rebrand yourself. Whatever it is you need, use that time. And so open up your phone right now, find your calendar, set a reminder for the next full moon and the next new moon. I think there's probably heaps of apps actually. You could probably get a moon app that pings you every day with where the moon is. That would be really nice. Or if you have a physical calendar, I've seen a lot of like old school, literally calendars that have the moons on there. Grab one of them, bring it to your front of mind and live by the moon. Set those intentions and then shed what doesn't serve you. I love it. Have a go. DM me if you try living like this. Try the next full moon, try the next new moon, have a crack and message me. Tell me that it doesn't change your life, because I promise you, this is an incredible way to live. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode today. I do want to make a quick side note. I don't think you can hear it, but sometimes I can hear it through my headphones. I've got two very codependent little dogs, and they have to be in the room with me while I am recording. Literally, one of them is sitting under my feet and one of them is sitting behind me. And they fucking snore, and they're always licking their feet. And what you don't hear is throughout recording the episode, I'm usually turning around, I'm saying, stop fucking licking, be quiet, stop snoring. I do cut that out. But if you ever hear a random little snore or like a licky noise, it's not me. I'm not snoring. I'm not licking myself. It is the girls in the background because we're a team here at Mind Your Own Beeswax. Yes, I am the CEO, but I've got my two little dog emotional support employees here with me at all times. And you know what? I actually low key love that. Like, if I was listening to a podcast and someone was like, yeah, my dogs are here, like, thank you for supporting my dreams as a little old dog mum. It's just, a mother with her two children here, basically. As always, I hope this episode finds you at a time that you need it the most. Love you. Bye.
Mind your own beeswax.